Hello and welcome to Rights and Recourse, a program that tackles legal issues, bringing you information and analysis. My name is Dumila Mateza. Remember, you can also be part of our discussion today by tweeting us at Rights Recourse or calling our studio line on 011 714 5497 or 5498. Alternatively, email your thoughts to rightsandrecourse@sabc.co.za. The announcement that convicted Paralympian Oscar Pistorius would be released on correctional supervision this week sparked a furore. Women's rights groups expressed their displeasure at the decision being made during Women's Month. Pistorius' trial of killing his girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp on Valentine's Day of 2013 dominated headlines across the world, but Correctional Services Minister Michael Masuta later sent the decision back for review by the Parole Review Board. The announcement has once again renewed questions around South Africa's correctional services early parole system. Before getting into our discussion, let's hear what Justice and Correctional Services Minister Michael Masuta had to say.
The women's group formally wrote to me raising the concern that they raised. Well, I rejected their request that I review the decision because I actually do not have the power to review. I only have the power to refer a matter to the Parole Review Board. And secondly, I rejected the grounds on which they wanted me to review the matter, and namely that it would be insensitive given the fact that we're in Women's Month, and I said there is no legal basis to review a decision of this nature on those grounds. However, upon perusing the application in full, I came to notice that, and that was looking at the profile itself, the decision of the parole board and the time when the decision was taken against the background of what the law actually says. I came to realize that actually the parole board erred because they took a decision prematurely in contravention of the clear provisions of the Act.
And now to unpack today's topic, I'm Ms Jacqui Mofokeng, Gauteng Provincial Convener for the Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa. We also welcome Mr Golden Miles Bhudu, who is the National Spokesperson of the South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights. And at our Port Elizabeth studios, we are joined by Ms June Steenkamp, the mother to Reeva Steenkamp. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Good afternoon.
The question, I don't know whether we can come down to you, June, first and ask you, we are aware that you have just been discharged from hospital and our commiserations for that. Probably we should start by asking, how has the family been coping in the last few weeks before the intervention by the minister?
I'd first of all like to thank the Progressive Women's Movement, Jacqui, Mofokeng, for making all this possible and bringing to light their feelings. And I really appreciate that. It's been very difficult. It's been very difficult for us, but we are trying to concentrate on the Reeva Rebecca Steenkamp Foundation Against the Abuse of Women, and moving rather away from Oscar and his coming out of jail. So it doesn't really change anything for us because our daughter won't ever come back.
The announcement by the minister.
Whatever day it is.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry? No, that's fine. You go ahead.
The announcement by the minister, Minister Masuta, must have come as some relief in the light of your permanent loss.
Yes, it did. At least the justice system now is coming forward, and this is probably the first thing that's ever gone right for me since the time of Reeva being killed.
Let's come to the studio, to Ms Mofokeng. Ms Mofokeng, first of all, what is the Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa?
The Progressive Women's Movement is an organization that was formed in 2006 by over 120 organizations in the country. It was launched when actually it was the 50th anniversary of the Women's March. Next year it will be 10 years. And we have the structure provincially. I am also a member of the African National Congress Women's League. I'm a spokesperson in Gauteng, and I happen to be deployed into this matter in the case. And when it came to be having challenges of the Steenkamp not making it to Tshwane or to Pretoria for the sake of being in the case, we said the Progressive Women's Movement, because it's a number of women that we must assist. And that's how the Progressive Women's Movement, being in court, made sure that the resources are made available. And we monitor the case with the ANC Women's League as an affiliate into the Progressive Women's Movement, with over 80% of organizations and only less than that being the political parties. As you know, there are very few with women, and hence we come there. There's no confusion about what Progressive Women's Movement is all about. It's for all women of this country together moving.
And what prompted the Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa to make this petition to the minister?
We were following the matter, and we were just amazed when we start listening to the media now and then saying that Oscar is coming. And the question was, but we are stakeholders. Being part that has been in court, everybody saw us. Why couldn't we be told? Until I checked with the Steenkamps, and they said they were just told that this is going to happen. What are their views? And they said, we are not happy with the 10 months, which we are not happy with it, but we are mindful about the rule of law, that if it's a correct 6th that they are saying, which I don't know how they count it, for 5 years that somebody will be out in 10 months, if the process is correct, we didn't have a problem with correctional supervisions as mothers, that we can have any of our families that can go through the same process. But we are happy that we moved for that, even if there was a criticism of saying Women's Month cannot be an issue. But I can be standing here to say that that Women's Month is a month that is important for us. It shaped this country, and it shaped the world, and it has made us to be where we are as this country today.
Well, yes, we did try and get the correctional services to be part of this discussion. They sent us a note that say kindly note that the Ministry and the Department of Correctional Services will not be engaging media on the matter of Oscar Pistorius at this stage, as the Correctional Supervision Parole Review Board is dealing with the matter, is an independent structure operating distinct from the department and the ministry. Mr. Golden Miles Bhudu, many people are asking the question, what is the difference between correctional supervision and parole?
Dumela, thank you very much, and thank you for your viewers. I'm coming here as a layman. I'm coming here to speak on behalf of those who really do not understand how the system works, for very obvious reasons. I come here being empowered by Chapter 7, Section 73, Subsection 7A of the Correctional Services Act 111 of 1998, which says that, I quote, a person sentenced to imprisonment under Section 276, Subsection 1, Paragraph 1 of the Criminal Procedures Act must serve at least 1/6. 1/6 of what? Who is going to calculate the 1/6, because some of us are not mathematicians? How much is 1/6 of a 5 years? Because 5 years do have months, weeks, days, seconds, and even hours. The same with 1/6 of his or her sentence before being considered for parole under correctional supervision, unless the court say something else. Now I wonder, how did the parole board, how did the Department of Correctional Services, and how did the minister came to the conclusion of which we are not pointing a finger to the minister. We are saying this is what the Act says, unless the court has directed otherwise, but if more than one sentence has been imposed under the particular act of the Act, the person may not be placed under correctional supervision for a period exceeding 5 years. Be reminded that Oscar Pistorius was sentenced for homicide, of which some of us up to today have serious, very serious problems about that. because it was a cold-blooded murder of a defenseless woman, finish in Kla. But now a judge take a decision that has gone so far that it made us to sit here today and keep on squabbling about how the act works. And I will, as time goes on, further refer you to another act under the same chapter where inmates serve a certain sentence out, let's say it's a first-time offender, for a minor offense or a petty offense, then this inmate approach what is called jailhouse lawyers. These are guys who sit in prison and study law, complete their degrees and so on, or some of them are studying law, and they are approached by inmates to say, look, I want you to assist me to apply for conversion of my sentence according to section 276A3, so that my sentence could be converted to correctional supervision. But as I said, I am not talking here as a legal expert because I never wanted to be a lawyer. I'm talking here as a layman. It is something that needs to be done to this particular act, and it is a pity that we must wait until the SHIT hits the fan. Then we start running around and talking about the particular act. But be that as it may, we are living in a country which is in transition. The Correctional Services Act is in transition. The Criminal Justice Act is in transition. The Police Act is in transition. And we are all have to work together to try and make sense out of these acts because it has now cost another referral.
Well, it seemed to me that we will have to make sense of what Mr. Golden Miles Bhudu was saying there. I would like, if you'd like to join us in today's discussion, you can call us on 011 714 5497 or 5498, or tweet us at Right Recourse, or email your views to rightandrecourse@sabc.co.za. We'll be back after the break.
This week we are taking you around the continent, telling you stories about what makes Africa, Africa.
We now head to the Kenyan coast where we meet a man using needles to fight a growing drug culture.
A recent study revealed that there are 850 drug addicts in Diani alone, with over 220 using injectable drugs such as heroin.
In my community, I've seen a lot of these people suffer.
The Journal, every Saturday at 1:30 on SABC News.
Welcome back. Let us now hear what the Twitter community has to say about this matter. Very early this morning, Carol Simon says, why should there be? Does this apply to others? Where's the equal treatment under the law? He's singled out. Unati Grootboom says, review and get a new judge. That's Keda says, the minister is right. Due process wasn't followed as prescribed by law. Parole board jumped the gun. Maureen says he should stay in jail until he has a retrial. Mr. Bhudu, I want to come to, but first of all, let us listen to an independent legal analyst. Brenda Wardle spoke to SABC Digital News about Minister Masuta and the Correctional Services about the decision to refer Pistorius' parole decision to the review parole board. Let us hear what she has to say.
It would actually set a very, very horrendous precedent should it be allowed to continue, and it would be an administrative nightmare because the Act doesn't only deal at Section 73 with placement on correctional supervision. Section 38 of the Act, Section 42 of the Act, the CMC must periodically review the progress which is made by offenders, contact community corrections with a possible date for placement, recommend a release to the parole board. So it is not something as ministers trying to advance that must be taken only after the date of release becomes imminent. So it would indeed set a very, very bad precedent, and it would cause an administrative nightmare for parole boards and case management committees around the country.
Well, that was Brenda Wardle talking to our SABC Digital News. Let us first, Mr. Bhudu, probably you heard what Brenda is saying. There seems to be a dichotomy in that some are saying the decision for parole should have been taken after the 10 months. And it would seem this decision was taken quite early after the trial on June the 5th.
Well, that is because you are not dealing here with Jan Rapp and Semat. You're dealing here with Oscar Pistorius. He is a well-known, privileged, well-connected offender who would get preferential treatment because he's Oscar Pistorius. Now, this kind of judgment or the decision taken by the minister is, of course, has created a situation where tens, if not hundreds, of inmates are now in panic. And it has created an anxiety because there are some of the inmates who were also sentenced under the particular act. They are sitting there in the cell and wonder, will this happen to them when they are about to be released on correctional supervision? Because when I read and understand the act, when you are sentenced under the 276 subsection 1, paragraph 1, correctional supervision, it is something that must happen automatically after you have served 1/6. Now, nobody has up to so far tell us how much is 1/6 of a 5 years? And we have deliberately not gone to mathematicians or sit there in our little corners and calculate how much is a 1/6 of a 5 year. So I'm just wondering, whether this decision taken by the Department of Correctional Services is not going to backfire, because there are some inmates who are out, who has been released after they've served 1/6 of their sentence. They are out there, whether they are not going to be recalled now and told that, look, you have been released and it was irregular.
There's something here. Some of the tweets we've seen, Mrs. Mofokeng, were talking about he should wait for the retrial. The question I wanted to know, both of you can probably answer that question, is what happens when the appeal comes up and he has to come back to jail, or what would have happened if the minister did not intervene?
Well, from where I'm sitting, I think nothing is going to come out of that NPA appeal to the Supreme Court of Appeal. You know, I'm saying that the decision that Oscar must be sentenced to a Correctional Supervision Act is a decision taken not in a divorce court, not in a traffic fine court, not in a tribunal court. It's taken in a high court. And it would be very ironical and controversial if the colleagues of this judge is going to overrule the decision taken by a judge, and it's going to spiral our criminal justice into another dichotomy.
Well, that's a view from Mr. Golden Miles Bhudu. Let's take this call from Owen from Bombela. Owen, good afternoon and welcome to Rights and Recourse.
Hi, Mr. Mateza.
Yes, sir.
I've heard your panelists saying that they are not mathematicians. They do not know as to how did the commission arrive at the 6th of the sentence. Okay, the point is the sentence that was given to Oscar was 5 years. If you divide 5 years, which is 60 months, by 6, it will give you 10 months. So that's how it was arrived at. They said 5 years divided by 6. Had it been said a fifth, that means it will be a different story. It would be a fifth, you would divide that 60 by 5. But then in this case, they say a sixth, which means you're going to divide 60 months, or 5 years, which is 60 months, by 6. It gives you 10 months. But then I like what Masuta said. in June, when they took that decision, Oscar had not made 10 months inside prison. So in that way, that's how he found a loophole in the judgment that was made. So, yeah.
Thank you,
Owen.
With
the sentence that was given to him, but yeah.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you, Owen. Ms. Mofokeng, they say there's a dichotomy here. I still want to find out, should the decision be taken after the 10 months, or should the decision be taken when it was taken on June the 5th?
I think on June the 5th, for me, it was unfair because he was only 6 months. If you evaluate somebody in 6 months and then you forget about that, there's still 4 months, are you going to have another actually sitting where you have to call stakeholders of the family to look at that? And I didn't hear the minister saying anything about it. And if they were doing that before, then which means after they evaluated a person before the time, then it means that they will never follow. Whether you default or what, they wouldn't care. Hence, we are calling on the review of the parole boards. And there are many, remember, 52 of them. And I think the board is paid. I don't know much about it, and hence the Progressive Women's Movement and the ANC Women's League in particular, where I am, we are saying that the review, it's very important for us. It must happen because we cannot just be having people paid and not doing the right thing. Hence, we still have a lot of people going back into prison because they go before time. They are not even, we are not even sure how they are actually, the supervision, how it goes. And this is part of the way we need to talk about stakeholders. I am in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. We have stakeholders in the portfolio committees.